Hey guys, it is January of 2024. Welcome. It's a new year and I am in the kitchen. I'm getting ready to start a canning project. I saved a bunch of tomatoes this last summer with the hopes of turning it into tomato sauce. I believe I did use some for making salsa because I have been trying to do salsa every year. So this month I'm going to invite you along with me as I do a few canning projects. And the first one is to make some pizza sauce out of the tomatoes that I saved from last summer. I probably saved them a little too long because they did start to get freezer burned, but I think that was actually my own fault because I accidentally left the freezer door slightly open at one point. And yeah, so that was probably my fault. Right now, the tomatoes are on the stove to finish their thawing process. I have my sauce master here and I'm going to be putting the tomatoes through the sauce master to create a sauce, and then tomorrow I will finish the actual tomato sauce on the stove. So you can see right now how I get this sauce ready, and then tomorrow we'll come back and we'll create the actual recipe together. So the recipe that I'm using is from the Ball book of canning. It's a very extensive book and it has recipes for just about anything you could want. Great book. I am going to add a few different herbs than it has. So the main herb in pizza sauce is oregano, and I will be adding in a little bit of basil, and I will probably up the amount of garlic in it. So there are certain things when you're canning that are okay to change, and there are certain things that you do not want to change. Adding in these herbs is okay, and because it's my first time, I probably won't make a blog post about this. I like to make sure that the recipe is actually, it turns out good before I start giving it away. So today is more of a follow along just to see how I do it. I will put my recipe for this down below in the information box, so if you want to do this when I'm all done with it and you decide that looks good, then you can use the recipe as well. But know that the original recipe is in that Ball book of canning. One more thing, also know that this is a part of the January Canuary collaboration. So Barbara Sue over at Kowalski Mountain is hosting this collaboration to share different canning videos with you guys and give you inspiration on that. So I am not the only one who's doing canning this January. You'll be happy to know there are a lot of different inspirational canning recipes going around this month. So check them out, #Canuary, and know that this is not a part of, I know there's some other type of collaboration going on also in January that has the same hashtag that gives away a lot of stuff. This is not that. This one is hosted by Kowalski Mountain. But go check out that hashtag to find out more of the different recipes that are floating around, and go check out some of these other YouTubers that are sharing their recipes with you. Okay guys, you see that? I got the puree started on the stove. I was a little bit disappointed to find that I did not have quite enough to do the full recipe, and I really do not enjoy doing canning generally when I can't get a lot done, because it takes time, right? It takes time to do all of the processing and then to do the time on the stove. But today is not just about what comes of it. So this time I'm not too worried about not making a lot of sauce. First of all, because it's kind of an experiment. I want to see how it works. And then second of all, this is kind of an experiment, so I know, do I want to be processing tomatoes next year, as in like this next garden year, to make this sauce for pizza, for all around tomato sauce that we can use for spaghetti, for other dishes I might make, like soups, lasagna, that sort of thing. but mainly for pizza, I would say. But do I want to have a pizza garden? Do I want to be growing basil? Do I want to be growing oregano? What type of tomatoes would be best to grow if I'm going to be growing things for an Italian style dish, for pizza sauce? I'm going to want a nice meaty tomato that's not going to have a lot of water in it. I want it to be a nice thick sauce, right? And so this will help me decide what I want to grow next year. If this turns out great and the family loves it, then hey, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go and I'm going to look into what is the best basil out there for something like this, you know. And so this really helps me decide what seeds I want to get for the garden this year. It's kind of exciting because this process isn't just for the now. This is for what's going to happen next summer and fall. It helps me to plan out my garden too. So you don't always have to plan a garden just by saying, oh, well, what do I want to try and make in the summer, and then see what you'll can from it. But you can also start on the other end. You can can things first and go, okay, that was great. I think I can make this even better, and I think we would actually eat a lot of this. And that's what I'm doing right now, is I'm experimenting with the canning portion, just using our leftover tomatoes from last year to see, would this be something I want to pursue for next year for the family. So if you have leftovers from the last season, you can do something like this too. Experiment a little bit with your canning. Just take an afternoon in January. This is a little bit slower of a month for us. Maybe it is for you. If so, then this might be the time to just experiment a little bit with your canning. Okay, so I'm going to heat up the tomato puree that I've got here, and then I will put in the lemon juice. I'm going to put in the oregano, garlic powder, salt, pepper, and I'm also going to add in the basil and the onion powder. I'm going to do a little bit of onion powder. That will make this more of an all-around, all-purpose tomato sauce recipe, so we can use it both for pizza and I can use it as a spaghetti sauce. So I have just about 8 minutes left or so. You want to try and stir the sauce for about 15 minutes to just let it thicken a little bit. You want it to be that nice sauce thickness that you would get from a store, so it's not too thin, and this will help it to thicken. I have a pot with water here. I'm not actually using like a real canner. You can use, if you have a pressure canner, you can use the pot from that, but really any big pot works. And since I'm only doing a small amount today, it doesn't take much for it to fit into a pot, you know. So I filled the pot to about 3 inches full with water, and then that's going to warm up. I don't want it hot when I put the jars in, but I do want it warm so that the glass doesn't have a huge temperature difference it's going to. And then on the back of the stove, I've also been heating up more water that I can pour, and I will turn that off now, that I can pour over the jars when I put them in. So we're getting close, and I will go ahead and finish up here, and then we will load up our jars. Okay, I got my jars out. They're warm and ready, and I have my lids and my bands out, and they are also warm and ready. They're in a bowl of water right now, and I've got some extra rags, not rags, but towels, clean towels that I can dry them off with as I'm screwing them on. I am trying out the Superb canning lids from Cooey Housewares, and if you've heard about this, it's a very interesting story. So the Superb brand was made by the Amish in 2020 during the big crises of everybody trying to find lids and not being able to find canning lids. Some guys got together and they wanted to start a new canning lid. And they had the goal of making it better than the leading brands of canning lids. You know, you can think of them, Ball, Kerr. And it's amazing because they were able to find someone who could make the rubber band thicker, who could make the seal tighter, and the metal on the bands is also supposed to not have the rust issues that you have, or I should say I have, with the other canning lids and bands. So I'm excited to try these and see how they hold. I do want to note that, you know, sometimes lids don't hold also because of user error, because maybe they're screwed on too tight, but we'll see, or too loose or whatever. We'll see how it goes, and I will give you my honest feedback on how these lids are doing as I use them, because they are supposed to be really great. And you know that when you're canning, you want to get your money's worth, and you want the work that you do to actually come back, and you want things to be able to seal so that you can use them later, because it is a lot of work to can. So I will put the link for these canning lids in the information box below. Again, I got them from Cooey Housewares, and they are offering 15% off to Hilltop in the Valley viewers. So I'll put the link down there and you can grab it, go, and the 15% off automatically gets added to the order. I just have to say before I start that our house did not always have this big cord going from the back of the wall where the stove top is up to where our fan is up above. If you've been following me, you know that this last May our other stove went out and we had to get a new one. During that time though, we ended up having to do a ton of other renovations on the house, and there were so many things that got prioritized first that we still have not been able to finish this in order to make it look a lot better. And so we still have a cord sticking out. So that's why that is. If you've noticed the cord in the videos, we really do care about how our house looks, but we're just not there yet. Good. So we're supposed to have it filled to a 1/2 inch headspace. Shoot, I think I need to grab my... So I went ahead and got all the jars in, and I realized I did something wrong. I didn't thicken the sauce as much as I should have. And I feel like that is a beginner's problem, because I've done that before, you know, when I was first starting with jams. And it's one of those things, like you do it and then you start to fill the jars and you realize this isn't as thick as I wanted it to be. And it was kind of like, okay, do I stop or do I just do it? I just went ahead and did it. So, you know, I don't think it's going to be too bad to use. I think it'll still be good. It smells wonderful. We'll see how it tastes. But just want to say, be careful. Make sure that you thicken your sauce enough if you're going to be following a recipe like this. I'm a little bit disappointed I did that, but even so, it smells wonderful. I think it will turn out great. I'm going to boil these. Once it comes to a boil, I will set the timer for 35 minutes, have it keep boiling over that 35 minutes. I've got it covered about 2 inches above the tops of the jars with water. And then when it's done, I will go ahead and take the lid off, turn it off, and let it sit for about 5 minutes before I take the jars out. So I'm going to go ahead. I had just a little bit of sauce left. I'm going to use it for pizza tonight, and we will test this, see how it tastes. I'm going to thicken it a little bit more. There's not much left here, but I think it'll be good for one pizza at least. All right, I'm back, and I went ahead and checked the jars after that 12-hour time and made sure, like this one, that it is sealed completely, and they were all sealed, which is wonderful. These lids really held up to the task. I am pretty happy with them, and I mean, I haven't seen any rust yet, but it hasn't been very long, so I will see how they do. But so far, honestly, I'm super pleased with them. With the leftover sauce that I had that I did not can, I went ahead and I used that for pizza last night. I made a couple of whole grain einkorn pizza crusts just using my recipe. You can see the video with that one. That is a really fun recipe and the kids love it. And I also am working on an all-purpose einkorn flour recipe using that recipe for pizza. I didn't get video of the end result. I just went ahead and did dinner with the family that night, but the kids really loved it, and it didn't matter that our sauce was a little bit thinner than I had planned. It all worked out still, and so I am not concerned with the consistency of this. I did learn though that you follow all the directions, which of course, like, why would you not? But I'm someone who doesn't like to follow directions. So when it says that you should put in the sauce slowly to boil, there's a reason for that. Now I look back and I realize, oh, they wanted me to slowly thicken the sauce when I was boiling it instead of just pouring all the sauce in and letting it boil for like 15 minutes. So I think it's a little bit of a longer task than I had wanted it to be, but that is what would have thickened it and made it a little bit easier by putting it in the pan in smaller amounts. I think I'm just going to go ahead and go for it for next year. I mean, I'm going to be growing tomatoes anyways, and so I think I'm going to go with a San Marzano tomato, and then I'm not sure of the type of basil yet, but I really want to get like an Italian basil. You can get basil from, different countries have their own sorts of basil. There's like stuff from Africa, there's Israel basil, and so I think I want to get more of an Italian basil, something from that region. But I'm excited for that. I'm going to look at oregano, and I think I tried to plant oregano last year. I don't know for sure, but I'm going to do it again this year. And once again, I'm going to find something that's going to work really good with that Italian flavor. I am not like a huge canner, but I do like to can things that are going to be helpful for us, that I can have control over the ingredients with. So for instance, I've done applesauce, I've done apple pie filling. There's a video that you can see on that. That is a very popular video right now, and honestly, that has made the best apple pie that we've ever had. Instead of using a thickener in the canning of the apple pie filling, I just put some arrowroot powder on the apple pie filling. When I put it in the pie, it thickens it so well in the oven, and then I don't have to worry about using like the modified corn substance that it's putting in there. I also do jams. I like to do salsa because honestly, I feel like a lot of our salsas have been way better than in the store. And when you make that many, one, you don't have to worry about purchasing it from the store, so it's one thing off of your list. And then two, you know the ingredients. And three, honestly, I think it's way cheaper to just make all of those than it is to go to the store. And we love it. It makes a great snacking item and a great gift for people as well. So I hope this kind of gives you some ideas for planning your own garden maybe, or planning what you're going to be canning next year. And I would love to know what you guys are planning on canning, what you guys are planning on gardening and growing. Let me know in the boxes below. I'd love to hear from you on that. And don't forget to check, I will put in the information box below the other people who are doing this Canuary collaboration, so you can see some of the other ideas, some of the other things people are putting together to can this month. Thank you guys for hanging out. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel, and thank you for coming along, and I hope you guys have a wonderful week. I will talk to you again soon.